Back. So continuing, high-level programming languages. Every piece of software is executed by the computer's CPU, okay, Central Processing Unit. The CPU provides core support, that is basic support for the most primitive data types, that is integers or floats, and most primitive instructions, addition, subtraction, so on. Each CPU has its own programming language called the machine language. Okay, so this machine language is a low level programming language. Because a machine language supports only the most basic data types and operations, it is often described as a low level programming language. What is software? Software is typically developed with high level programming languages. The computer's hardware only understands the low level language. Okay, hardware understands machine language, low level language. Whereas you or I, programmer, will program in a high level language and create one or more text files. So the programs we create, they are written in files, that's called source code. Now, in order to be executed that high level source code, so the text you write has to be translated into the equivalent low level instruction. So whatever you write, the machine has to understand. So there is a translation going on. These translators are of two kinds. One is compiler, the other is an interpreter. What's the difference? A compiler takes the entire original code and translates it into a low level program known as an executable. So when you write your code, your program in a file, and then you run it, what that means is your entire code is first translated to a low level program, which is called an executable. This executable can then be run directly by the computer, whereas an interpreter proceeds piecewise. It translates one instruction, executes it, then translates the next instruction, and so on, one line at a time. Okay, so these are the two ways. One is compiling, the other is interpreting, one line at a time. Now, there are hundreds of high-level programming languages. Some of the most commonly ones are Ada, C, C++, C hash, COBOL, Fortran, Java, etc. Okay, each language has its own syntax and semantics. What's the difference? Syntax of a language is the precise set of rules regarding how character, words, and punctuation should be used. In other words, syntax is more like a grammar. A compiler or interpreter reports a syntax error if your code is not formatted according to the rules. Okay, so you get a syntax error if your code is not formatted, if you have not written your code according to the rules of the language you use. What's the meaning of semantics? Semantics actually means the underlying meaning. So meaning of semantics is meaning, you see. So semantics is the underlying meaning of statements written in your code. Your code could be written syntactically correct but does not produce the desired result, then most likely there is a semantic error. For instance, if you want the quotient when 12 is divided by 5, you should type in 12/5 rather than 12/5. What is the difference between these two? Well, double slash here, this is called integer division or floor division. So quotient will be 12 divided by 5. The quotient is 2. remainder is 2. So you want quotient, this should fetch you 2. Whereas this will fetch you, well, 12 divided by 5. It will result in a float, right? So 2.4, that's what you will get. 2.4 here, whereas 2 here. So if you want only the quotient, you must type in this expression, okay? Here are different types of errors. Syntax error. Suppose you type in on your Python shell, print hello. This is a syntax error. Let's run this and see. Okay, so I have my idle. Idle is the environment I use, which you will also use for Python. So when I click on idle, I get what is called a shell, Python shell. So let's try these two, right? 12 integer division 5 gives me 2. That's good. That's the quotient. Whereas 12 divided by 5 is 2.4. This is simply division, the float value that you get. Okay. Now let's look for syntax error. If I say print hello, I wrote this, but I did not close the quotes. So print parenthesis, quotes, hello, parenthesis. It's complaining. Syntax error, end of line while scanning. So what went wrong? So let's see. Let's write down with the closed quotes. So print hello, close those quotes. Aha, it printed that line. So that's good. Print how are you? Close the quotes. Oh, I did not close my parenthesis, did I? Okay, there you go. Now, so this is an example of a syntax error. So I did not write this grammatically correct. All right. Whereas this is grammatically correct. Opened quotes were matched with the closing ones. Open parentheses had to be matched with the parentheses. So here was another case where we got a syntax error because I did not close the opening of parentheses. Here is an example of runtime error. Print 1/0. Well, look at the syntax. It is correct. The syntax is fine. But it's giving me trouble. Why? Because I'm dividing by 0. 0 division error. So, this is a runtime error. Okay? Syntax is correct, but the interpreter is unable to run your code to completion. Now here is another example, logical error. Here the syntax is correct and the interpreter is able to run your code. For instance, print 2 plus 2 equals 10. All right. Okay. It printed 2 plus 2 equals 10. Why did it print it? Because that's what I told it to do. Okay. So the syntax is correct. The interpreter is able to run it. See, I did not have any division by 0. Nothing like that. It was able to print it. What is the flaw? The flaw is what got printed. Because there is a logical error in what I asked it to do. Okay. So this is a human error. This is a programmer's error. All right. So what this means is errors of this kind are hard to detect. Okay. Logical errors are the hardest to find because it is the author of the code who is responsible for the error. Python will find its own errors. Okay, but the author of the code will have to find his or her own errors. Okay, now I'll give you some time to sign up on CodeLab. Go to turingscraft.com, register for CodeLab, follow the instruction, and for our course in summer 2020, this is the access code. Okay, if you are students from some other semester, then don't go to your lecture notes. You will find the access code of your class. All right. Also take time for your home computers, download Python 3.7 or the latest version, whichever is currently running, from www.python.org. Choose the appropriate installer. I'm going to be using idle, the application idle. Okay, this is idle. All right. Now, after installation, you can run idle either by going start all programs Python, or if you're on a Mac, go to applications Python and idle. Okay. Another an easy but limited option is Brython. Brython is for browser Python. You can check over there. You can also use this environment, Jupyter, which is actually quite nice. We will be using Blackboard for homework and test submissions. So be aware of how to use Blackboard. And in addition, sign up for Dropbox by going to this place. Do not use the business account receives payment, requires payment. Create a folder. All of this, mind you, is being will get updated as semesters progress. So follow the lecture notes that you are given. Okay, so until the next video, bye.